which may open at some point. So anyway, that's something we will be working with in your first one.
Yeah, I'll check with Whitney on that.
I mean, unfortunately, we're not rushing. Yeah. We wish we were. We wish we were. Well, welcome everyone. Has everyone been here? I just want a quick tour to shine. Yeah.
Yes. I can't do it with Woll.
Ah, okay. You do well.
I'll check those things. But great, sweet water.
Yeah.
It's
I love it. Yeah.
great stuff.
Teacher, I don't leave home without it. Thank you so much.
I don't know if you want to do when we open, I'm Sean wants to do a introduction. We had that request that came in and we saw it last right. Yes. Yeah. So introduce yourself and give a little bit of that.
We'll do it right after.
Here we are in person. I mean,
Again.
maybe I missed one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope we always
Do
appreciate
we
it.
have people participating on Zoom?
One now, I just opened it to the attendees. So we got two.
Okay.
No, that's- The other problem with this library is
I'm sorry.
it's so tucked away that it gets a red-headed stepchild. You know, it's the thumbs out. You know, it just sits here and
Yeah.
and people forget that.
And then when she walked in.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
We took Alba Road here, and if you've been on that, we took Empire Grade to Alba. It's so windy, but it's beautifully paved. Really interesting drive. I've never come that way before.
I did that actually the first time, when I came out here to see the performance, they had the concert here. And then I had to go to UC Santa Cruz or something, so we went back that way. That was my first time.
Yeah.
Really wild drive.
Yeah, really. Mhm.
Does this amphitheater get used much?
I don't think it gets used as much as I probably like.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think probably if it has some shade, I probably can speak to that, like it gets hot out there when there's, no shade, especially in the summer months. And in the winter, I'm not sure you can be sitting out there in the cold. But yeah, during the summer, it's a lovely amphitheater, but
The concert was actually really drew a nice crowd.
So my nephew went to UC Santa Cruz and was in the drama department, and they used to do this abridged Shakespeare, these bridge Shakespeare performances, and they did one up here every year. He was in school, and it was really, they were really well attended. They were really fun, and it was really nice to see the community come out for it. Yeah, I don't know that they're still doing it. He graduated several years ago. So
Is that Shakespeare to go?
yeah, Shakespeare to go. That's what it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they are.
Oh, that's too bad.
probably pandemic.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
If they ever start up again, that'd be great.
Mhm.
And she. See what she We went, we were able to see it in the studios.
Wow.
Welcome everyone to the Library Advisory Commission regular meeting for Monday, October 2nd. We're here at the Boulder Creek Branch Library. May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Wynne,
Wynne present?
Commissioner Woll,
Here.
Commissioner Dubin, absent. Commissioner Ripma,
Here.
Commissioner Khandelwal, here, Chair Termini.
Here, thank you. We will hear from our newest commissioner, Charlotte. Welcome, and tell us about yourself.
Thank you, I'm delighted to be here and so happy to have been appointed from Supervisor Koenig. My name is Charlotte Khandelwal or Charlotte Wader. Khandelwal, you will often see my name gets truncated. It's too long. Been in the mountains now for 20 years, or a little over 20 years, but I grew up in Los Gatos, so this was always someplace I wanted to live, but didn't live until I became an adult. I'm currently also serving on the Woll School Board as our vice president. I've done 10-year stints on our education fund and on our theater in the mountains for our children's theater program up there. If you don't know about it, we do have children's theater in the mountains. And really passionate about reading. Books are my best friends, and I've raised two voracious readers who are now adulting and enjoying their lives. I'm just happy to be of service to the community and to the libraries.
Welcome.
Welcome. It's great to have you. I have a motion to adopt the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
No additions or deletions to the agenda.
Ready?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second,
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
We're unanimous. Any oral communications from the public would like to address the LAC on items not on the agenda? Anyone online?
There was a hand for a second, but it went
Came
down.
down? Okay, good.
Wait.
Oh, hands back up.
And it went down again. I think it's staying down.
Okay, report bar library director. Ripma.
Wait, okay, sorry. Wait, I think they want to talk to their hands back up.
Okay, well, we'll let them go. Here we go.
Let's see. Judy? I when you shut it off. Muted. See the activity. Now she muted herself. Judy, you are unmuted. Feel free to comment. Okay. She's unmuted, and I just don't see any activity
Nothing
on
happening?
her microphone.
Okay, we'll go right. Hi, Rena. Let the record show that Commissioner Dubin is wrong. The director report.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My director's report is included in your packet for your review. Just a few items that I will highlight for you this evening. Our library team, as you know, our community relations specialist, Amanda Rotella, has left us. We are very sorry about that, but we're very proud of her, that she's moving on to bigger opportunities. We will be beginning our recruitment for that position, and actually the city already has a list that they were hiring for. So we've been able to participate in interviews to hopefully hire someone for our position as quickly as possible. As you know, over this last year that Amanda has been here, she's been invaluable to the library with the press releases and all the publicity help that she brings. It is a position that we need desperately. So we are very anxious to get that filled right away. In addition, we've also completed our library assistant 2 transfers. As you recall, we have a number of vacant positions in that slot. I believe 8 right now that are open. There's a part-time, but we filled our full-time with people who already worked here and wish to transfer from a part-time to a full-time position. And so we're really glad that staff will be worked to develop, have been able to progress and advance to those full-time positions. And hopefully get a little closer to home. Some of them wanted to just be a little closer to home. So they want to swap with their location, which is great. Our library assistant 2 list has been, they've done the recruitment. HR did a special recruitment where they said, we're going to take the first 100 applicants because that's always one that we get just hundreds and hundreds of applications for. And so we're doing the first 100. They're going through that list right now and about to release it so that we can begin interviewing for those positions. So we're excited about that because that is a key position, as you know, that I've been trying to get that one higher since I got here. Let's get those positions filled because that's when people walk in the door, that's who they see first. And so that's a really important position. We will hold the library specialist position for now. That one again is going to work under Amanda or that community relations specialist. So I prefer to wait until that position is filled before we then recruitment for that. It's all geared up and it's in the pathway, but we just want to make sure we get that community relations specialist first. And then we have an information specialist who recently left us as well, went on to other things, and so we'll be able to deal with that as quickly as possible. With regard to our facilities, as you are aware, our Aptos library is still delayed. We were so excited because we were just moving along at a really fast clip. Unfortunately, we're still waiting for some additional work to be done before we, the library staff, can get access to the building. Once we get access, we do know it is 6 to 8 weeks before we can get it up and running and ready because we have to be able to put books on shelves, install computers, hook everything up, make sure it's all running. And so we do not have a definitive date. We're still knocking on wood for November, but it's getting close to that now. We know that if we don't get the building turned over to us soon, that may get pushed back. So I'm just watching that. As soon as we have any information, I will email it out to this board. We'll do a blind carbon copy, yes, everybody knows. And then we'll make a press release announcement as well to the public, just to make sure everybody's clear, because that is anxiously completed. Library annex, same thing. We had delays there. I think our next, my next punch list walk through that location is set for early November. I think November 2nd. So we will have more information at that time. But we're hoping that Aptos will open first, and then we'll get to library annex as we can. One of the really great things that I did this month or this last month, it's October already, I had the opportunity to go out and begin listening sessions with our Friends of the Library president, Janice Driscoll, and it was really great. We had community members who came. We have some information that we're gathering. We're going to continue to compile that, but just some of the themes that people mentioned that stood out initially. We had a tutor who came by who tutors and ESL students in our library spaces and loves the little study rooms because it really gives them the opportunity to talk and communicate. The tutor was able to take people and get them to the library desk and give them a library card, which they didn't know they had access to, and then help them to pick out books. She relayed the story of one woman who loves Princess Diana, and so she brought in this big books that she's like, well, let's see if we can get you something else. And so she was able to find in our collection some really great books that she could learn to read in English about Princess Diana, someone who she is very interested in and interested in learning about. And so that was really great. Hearing from our tutors, and then we also have members of the public who are concerned about the number of books because we're doing the remodels, and of course with ADA, our shelving units are coming down, and they do want to see more print materials available. So that was a pretty common theme. I did reiterate to them we are working on the Link Plus program, where patrons can go in the catalog. If we don't have something, they could order from another library. It would be shipped similar to an interlibrary loan, but you don't have to go through that process. It's all done through the catalog, just like as if you were ordering regular shelves. So the Link Plus project, we hope to get started on that. We hope to open Aptos for some holding, but we're going to go ahead and begin some preliminary work so that we don't get too on track with that program, because we understand and what we heard in that listening session, because that's important to people.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we continue to carry through. Cybersecurity awareness, as you may know, that's a big topic in this county, across the counties and cities. And so the library is something that we've been concerned about as well. So our IT manager is participating in many of those same conversations with the city and county, all working together collaboratively to make sure that we have the best solutions to protect our networks. And so as a part of that, our staff began training this month. They got sent out some phishing emails to see how many people will actually click. And then we are offering additional training to those who we find repeat, who are repeat offenders, so to speak. But all in all, I don't think our staff did too bad compared to what I've heard city staff did. So we'll continue to progress with that program and raise the level of difficulty and increase training for all of our staff across the board. And with that, the Building Forward grant, I know that many of you may have already heard that the library, the downtown affordable housing library project, that did get some funding for the affordable housing piece. 30.5 million was awarded, which is fantastic. We are still awaiting word from the Illinois State Library as to if we got any on our infrastructure agreement. So we're hoping that that notification will come this month. With the state library, sometimes they say it's September and then it enters into the next month. So keeping our eyes and ears open for that, and we'll again let you know as soon as we can. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
I had two questions. One was, how many librarians, were any of the new recruits librarians that had having degrees like in MLA or anything?
So we did hire for some library. We have the librarian position one that is open right now.
Okay.
So what we're doing, that's for Capitola youth.
Uh-huh.
So we anticipate having, we have a transfer list for that, for people who already work here,
Okay.
who may want to work at Capitola. Again, I want to go from adult to youth, or I want to get close to home. Everybody has different reasons why they want to transfer. So we'll open that up as a transfer opportunity first. And then what we will do, we have a list. That list was established already earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so we will utilize that list. There are a number of qualified candidates with masters of library science degrees
Right.
that we'll use to place and hire someone for that, whatever that vacated position ends up being.
Got it.
So that list is existing and we will utilize that. For these other positions, none of these are really the caliber that you would require a master's in library science. A library assistant 2 is considered an entry level position, but it does require you to have some customer service. We'd like for you to have library experience. So yeah, those are all factors.
Okay.
Yolanda, how long are those lists good for? 1 year typically is the time they can be extended. It's typically the 1 year or until we clear the list. So if we clear the list and everybody has said no, and that's not been someone who needed higher, then we can go out and do a new fresh list. Thank you.
So I know in grant supporting the printer interface and the checkout system is not maybe, as functional as I might have hoped. And I was just wondering if those are what's going to be put in Aptos as well, like if that's, because I know they're also there in the Garfield Park.
So I'm not sure, I'm happy to talk with you a little bit offline about that. There's an issue with the printers, we certainly think it's the IT because as far as I know, we're not having any major issues.
You haven't heard of any other major issues?
No, and I know we did have some where people, the way the interface worked, if you didn't push continue, then it didn't let you check things out.
Yeah.
And so those are things that we can certainly work on to make it easier. We actually were working with our vendor to change that continue button and get rid of it.
Yes.
So it confuses people.
Yeah.
So those are things that, yes, when we hear about those, and we actually did have some of our vendors walk through that I met with and toured them through our libraries and pointed that out. And said, oh yeah, we could fix that.
Okay,
So
perfect.
that's what we want to do whenever these come up. So I'm certainly happy to look into that.
Okay, so that's like a vendor thing as opposed to the actual system. So that's good to know.
Any other questions? We're up to member reports. Anyone have anything to report? Oh,
There was a hand raised.
oh, for the, we'll see if they'll talk this week.
Right, caller, you have made, and give me the ability to speak, you might need to do, there you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Judy Grunstra. I'm sorry, I apologize. I was frantically trying to connect over Zoom, raising my hand for oral communication. It wasn't working, so I apologize for that. I wanted to welcome new Commissioner Khandelwal. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Anyway, welcome, and I just wanted you to know that I am a retired librarian, so please know that any suggestions I make are never meant personally, but are meant to improve our libraries. Well, since Rena, first I'll talk about the director's report. Yes, I really appreciated the opportunity for the listening session. I was surprised more people didn't show up, but I hope this won't discourage you from having future sessions. Yes, and thank you, Director Wilburn, for mentioning that that women and several of us want to support a good book collection. We're concerned that the lower shelving may result in fewer books. So books are very important. The collection's important. One more thing, Rena mentioned issue at B40, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I might as well, that back issues of magazines are not accessible to the public there. They're stored behind the front desk. So I think that's a little troubling because it's nice to be able to browse through the back issues of magazines. So perhaps that will be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Good. Member reports. Oh, I'm awfully sorry. Friends, I'm crushed. You know, it's like being in front of the back page of the 7 minutes over.
I know it's been so long since my last meeting with all of you. Thank you, Judy. Nice to see you all again. It has been a while since the last time I was here, so I have a number of things to congratulate you on. I'm going to do it as efficiently as possible. First, I want to tell you that the board met in its annual meeting in July and re-elected our current leadership team for another year. That means Janice Driscoll as president, and Cindy Jackson as vice president, and Keith Gooder as treasurer, and Mark Swiner as secretary. They are all terrific people, and we are very fortunate to have them. Some quick financial updates. The Friends raised and voted about $130,000 over the last year. Mostly to support the summer reading program, which we'll hear about a little later. Recover and Thrive, which we'll also talk about a little later. And also to support the purchase of some new computer equipment for the STEAM program. In August, I joined our president, Janice Driscoll, and assistant director Howard in delivering a check for about $400,000 to the board of supervisors for the Aptos Library. Next month, we anticipate delivering another couple of checks to the Santa Cruz City Council, a little over $250,000 for grant support and a little under $200,000 for Garfield Park. All of these funds represent what we collected and raised through the community in the Realizing the Promise capital campaign of 2021. We are very happy to be able to support other programs in the library. Just to mention a couple. Lunching with Mozart is back. I attended the first session, and then people were putting up chairs like crazy. I mean, it was so full, it was literally to the rafters. There were 80 people in that room. It's just a lot. Also, the Youth Poet Laureate Program, which is being driven by Parnaz Makami, who is the Poet Laureate for Santa Cruz County. And also, it's not Poet Laureate, but she's the poet for the Cabrillo Music Festival as well. On the downtown library and affordable housing front, we have entered into an agreement with an organization called CCS Fundraising, which is a national fundraising consulting organization, to develop our campaign for the downtown facility, which, as you know, we're aiming to raise $2 million for that multi-purpose facility. Travis Carlos, who's the vice president of CCS, attended our board meeting in August and basically went over the plan, how they would go through it, and answer questions for the board and other interested parties. The formal process with CCS actually began today, and so we are underway. I am pleased to tell you we have already secured one pledge for $500,000. So we're well on the way. We haven't even really seriously started asking anybody yet. The Capitola chapter of the Friends is moving forward with a plan to install solar on the Capitola Library. This is a substantial project in terms of the costs involved. All of those costs will be borne by the chapter. Most of those funds came from their bookstore in the Capitola Mall. So that's really remarkable. The Friends Board, any expenditure by the Friends of over $10,000 requires a board approval. And so that came to us in our last meeting. There was extensive discussion and we approved that expenditure. We have a new chapter at Garfield Park under Police Expect. This is led by our new board member, Rena Rapazade, and it's a very active group, and we expect great things from them. So looking forward to that. And then finally, I'd just like to take a moment to talk about a new project that we have underway. As you may know, this is Banned Books Week. It is really unfortunate that we have to have a Banned Books Week. But banning books is an old tradition in this world, regrettably. In my lifetime, I have seen fascists ban books, communists ban books, and people on the left ban books, and people on the right try and ban books. And they always think there's a particularly good reason why some book or other should be banned, and they're always wrong. It's just not, it doesn't work. And it's just the wrong approach in general. We live in a representative democracy, and open information and information about our lives and our shared experiences is really critical. And we want to see that available to people in this democracy. So we are supporting this notion. I was going to hold one of these up, and instead I'll just say, look at we're for a relatively modest gift of $50 to go to the collection, specifically to support diversity in the collection. you get one of these wonderful books and books, t-shirts. And I would just like to say that all of you would look fabulous. Would make, you know, great fashion statements and leave your friends and neighbors absolutely green with them. So that was not too subtle. I just should know that. And that is the extent of my report. Thank you for your time. Unless you have some questions.
Any questions of Bruce? That was terrific. Anyone have anything out there in the studio audience? No. Okay, now we're on the report. Thank you for keeping me on the agenda. Members wish to report anything? Yes, Tricia.
So this is not really related to the Library Advisory Commission, but the Aptos Friends had their voting meeting last Thursday for their 7th annual Our Community Reads program, which has just been a program that's just been growing in excitement every year. And there are 5 chapters banding together: La Sola Beach, Capitola, Felton, Scotts Valley, and Aptos Friends. And they will be doing programs throughout the county. The book that was chosen is called The Monk of Mocha. It's by Dave Eggers, who, as you probably know, lives in San Francisco, and he has agreed to come. To do a presentation on the book, and I've got 25 pages left. I'm reading it, and it's quite good. So anyway, stay tuned for that. The Aptos Friends also, because we don't have a library, we've been tabling at the farmers market every other month. And it's just great to see the community sees us. They always come over. They always tell us how much they love libraries. They especially love Capitola, just because where we are. They all are dying to know when the Aptos Library is open, but it's really cool to interact with the community in such an informal way. We wear our t-shirts, and it's really nice to see how much the community cares about libraries. So yeah, just thought I would share that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just had a quick question. Are you selling the t-shirts at the table? At the
No,
farmer's market? Where do
no.
How does one obtain?
If you make a donation online and just say that it's for the collection, and put DEI in one of the note fields, then we will get a t-shirt to you. I think one of the issues right now is we started it as an experiment, and we don't really have a high volume shipping. If we do have a high volume shipping operation, you look at it.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we're working on a number, but we've sold, I don't know, we've received almost $2,000 in donations in the first month that the program has been underway. So we have great feelings about it. Another way that you can get a t-shirt is by handing me a check tonight. In this little,
So there's several sizes there.
Incredibly, I don't have this size. They're gonna be getting them next time.
We'll see you after the meeting. Anyone else? I have some things. I'm happy to say that the car chargers in Capitola and Felton were replaced. The new ones are actually working. And we chose the same ones because they're working in Capitola. We're going to choose the same ones for Felton, sorry. Capitola and Felton, we're using the same ones in Aptos. Speaking of Aptos, I can give you some inside baseball. On the 14th, I guess the 14th, hold on, I've got it right here. On the 14th of October, in the dark of night, we will be there with a crew from PG&E, and their electricity should be turned on to Aptos on the 15th. I don't know how you feel about the collection being an unconditioned space, but if you talk to Damon, I'll bet you could occupy that library in the daytime. Should you choose to do little bits and pieces of things. So I'll leave you with that. And but thanks as well. My wife said, please thank you for the little meeting room. She is an ESL instructor and uses them all the time and just loves it. Having that space is important. And speaking of bringing people up for the library, that's her favorite thing, Because when a student up to the counter, they love it, it's like, you know, opening the world up. This is really, really amazing. Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. This is usually taken as a single vote unless a member of the commission would like to pull an item. Would anyone like to pull any items or questions? Good.
Can I just ask it?
Ask on.
Okay. So I have, oh, it was on page 33, the incident report.
Oh, I have a question about that.
Yeah, it looked like the downtown incident report had gone up quite significantly, and I was just wondering if the staff is getting the support they need, or if there was, you know, something that needed to be advocated for that, that it just kind of stuck out at me, so.
Yeah, jumped out at me too. And if I could just dovetail,
Yeah,
with Rena, what are the kinds of incidents that are the most common? And then there were some suspensions, and I wondered, how do you graduate to a suspension from an incident? So if you could just.
I'll tag on to say, you know, are there consequences for the people who are making these?
So, all of these do link together, so thank you for your questions. Without going into specific detail, we have seen an uptick in the number of incidents, but I believe that is across the city, that is Santa Cruz citywide. Parks, recreation, every department, public works, every department is seeing an increase in incidents. Incidents range from name calling to throwing and breaking things, screaming inappropriately, inappropriate behavior in the library. So there are a variety of different things that could happen. Staff typically will give a warning and say, that's not allowed in the library. We have code of conduct. Here's the appropriate way to behave. We're asking that you stop doing whatever you're doing. If that person continues and does not comply, then they are suspended and asked to leave for the day, depending upon how severe their reaction is. In other words, if I cuss you out on my way out the door and throw things at you, then that could lead to a longer suspension. So, and then sometimes people are repeat offenders. They may come back and they know they're suspended, and that may get them even further suspension. Unfortunately, it doesn't necessarily stop people from going from downtown, coming to Boulder Creek or going to Scotts Valley. But staff, we do have a tracking system, and so staff are often aware, and they can then notify that person when they show up and say, hey, we understand you're suspended. We're going to ask that you leave for the day. Hopefully that person complies, but if they don't, if they again do something erroneous, then or treat staff in an inappropriate manner. Treat the space in an inappropriate manner or other patrons, then they may increase their suspension even further. I should say that people do have a right to appeal. Those appeals do come to me as the library director, and typically myself and another board member, one of the library joint powers authority board members. We review the case and then we will make a decision. And in most of the cases that I have seen, the offenses were egregious, and they were not going to be, the suspension was not lifted. We upheld the suspension. I think our staff are well trained. We continue to do de-escalation training at our staff meetings annually. We know this is a priority, de-escalation and non-escalation, so staff hopefully react in an appropriate manner and don't put themselves in harm's way. But also the city is working on kind of what else can we do? How can we make this safer? I will say that in many departments across the city, they're closed departments. So, you know, it's like, there's the door and I might not have to let you in. In the libraries, people are coming right in. And so our staff do deal with a tremendous amount of mental health issues.
Yes.
and some substance use issues. And so I think our staff do a phenomenal job of being able to navigate these challenges as they come up. We encourage them to use sort of buddy and support systems, like step out of it and let another person who's there with you handle it, get support for that. Take some time on the floor if you need to, calm down. So we encourage all of those things. We also recognize, unfortunately, it's a part of what we do in libraries.
So, Yolanda, do you need the voice of this commission for any additional assistance, getting more assistance in the libraries for
Yeah, that was.
this kind of thing? I don't want to see other guards at every check this, but is there anything we can do?
Downtown does have a security guard.
Right.
And so I think that is helpful so that staff can sometimes don't have to approach that person, that the security guard can do that approach. And make the request, and hopefully, again, that people comply. But if they don't, then generally the staff will go and work with them to hand over the paperwork and approach the patron. We really want to see, and this is a struggle, is we want to see police show up where we need law enforcement to show up. We've had some conversations with them. But law enforcement, again, is short-staffed and they're all over town. And so that does become a challenge when we need law enforcement to show up, we need them to show up. Oftentimes, by the time they get there, the person is gone, right? And so there's not a whole lot that we can do. I'm not sure that this board can do more with regard to that, but that would be one of the biggest things. I think our staff do call police. But
Perhaps on our next agenda, we could
we're
have
not
something,
fighting.
right, we could have something where this body formulates a letter to go to the Joint Powers Board, because all the right people are on the Joint Powers Board. They have all the police chiefs and sheriffs within arm's reach. And there will always be reasons why departments are not able to do something.
Right.
We're just asking them to find solutions for how they can.
And I will say, we have met with Santa Cruz Police Department and their community officer, and they do check in with us. It's just that we don't always get the support when we need it.
Right.
We've checked in with sheriffs because here at Boulder Creek,
Yes.
there's an issue, and this is further away, and they probably have a tougher time getting anybody to come here than they do at Santa Cruz.
This is
right?
a lot of territory for the sheriff to cover.
Yeah.
It has been a problem for the sheriff's department, but I think we can still get the message out there. And even if CSOs can occasionally do a drive-by or drop in, say, hi, how's everything going? Sometimes just seeing a uniform sets a tone. And I'm not a law and order beating the drum kind of guy,
No,
but
it seems, it's just the incident report was so kind of alarming.
it's always been alarming. It's been alarming forever, for as long as I've been associated. And it's trouble, especially in town. Thank you. Any other questions on the consent agenda?
Well, the only other thing is that I was not at the May 8th meeting, so I would happily give a courtesy vote, but I just want to know.
If you've read the minutes, then you are able to vote.
Yeah, I attended, remotely, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Is there a vote to approve the consent agenda?
And I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Any comments from the audience? No? Very good. We'll move on to general business. And we'll start with summer reading report, which is often that's been amazing.
It's nicer news than I like.
A good news report.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Norquist, and I manage youth program and services for the library. I'm here with Catherine Upton. She is a youth librarian at the downtown branch. And we're going to talk about our summer reading program this year. The theme was Find Your Voice. I'd like to share this 45-second video that was posted on Instagram by our community relations manager, Amanda Rotella, at the end of the program. This highlights the many programs and events we provided for our community this summer. And there's music, but you're not.
I think you have to unmute it at the bottom, you just scroll down. I mean, on the video itself, there's a speaker icon at the bottom right of the video.
But now you can turn it off on the. You can
I
turn it
turned it off
on,
on
yeah.
You need it again now.
So this year, we saw a large increase in the participants of all ages. We had 2,042 children ages 0 to 11 participate, 403 teens ages 12 to 18, and 1,136 adults. These numbers represent an increase of 50% more children than last year, 59% more teens, and 99% more adults. Total participation increased by 64% over last year.
Many factors contributed to the success of our program this year. All of our branches except Aptos were open during the summer. We had dedicated librarians at every branch providing programs for all ages, and we were able to offer a full schedule of programs at the branches as COVID protocols were relaxed. Thanks to the friends, we were able to entice people into our branches with we had wonderful programs, and we had additional incentive prizes, including grand prizes for raffles. Our librarians promoted summer reading at school assemblies, class visits, the Boulder Creek last day of school party, and community outreach events such as Pride, Kids Day, Juneteenth, and the Japanese Cultural Fair. From May through July, our marketing department provided outstanding marketing support to publicize the program and make it easy for people to participate. Expanding our presence on social media and throughout the community by providing lots of SCPL swag, including orange sunglasses that were a great fit at schools. The most important factor in our success was the dedication and enthusiasm that staff at all levels brought to the program as it encouraged people to sign up, help them to sign up, and collect their incentives, presented and facilitated programs, and tabled at outreach events.
Heather, can I just ask a question? So have you done that before? I mean, have you gone into schools and had a table at the Pride Parade? And it does seem like you guys really ramped it up, or did I just missed it in the past?
We had more librarians, more youth librarians, and so, for example, at this library, we have a new youth general who also does youth, and she did assemblies in this area, and so the participation for this branch was just way more than we've ever been able to promote before.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Here are some of the sample pages from the summer reading program brochure. All of the program, everything was bilingual. Everything, all of our promotional materials, everything was bilingual. English.
As before, readers could log their reading using either the paper log or the Beanstack platform.
We really can't say enough about how we appreciate the Friends of the Center Public Library. They provided $25,000 in funds for our incentive books, our performers and our raffle prizes, which were a big hit.
Yeah. All children and teens who signed up for summer reading received a $10 certificate for Advanced Fantasy World and a free game and shoe rental for Boardwalk Woll. They're a community sponsor this year. Children ages 0 to 11 earned a free book after 5 hours of reading, and 1,231 children reached this goal. We had a selection of books in English and Spanish, a variety of reading levels for them to choose from, and graphic novels were especially popular. Children earned raffle tickets for reading 10 and 15 hours, and teens earned tickets for 5, 10, and 15 hours. These prizes were gift cards to local businesses. Children and teens received a free scoop from Penny Ice Creamery and a grand prize raffle ticket for 20 hours of reading. And the grand prizes for the youth raffle was a gift certificate for $500 for the bike shop of their choice. Grand prizes for teens included a $500 bike shop certificate, Beats headphones, AirPods, and a disc golf set. This 20-hour goal was achieved by 828 children and 214 teens.
In addition, the La Selva Beach Friends also funded a special incentive for summer reading participants at the South County Migrant Housing Sites, which was a backpack with water bottles and school supplies.
With $23,000 in funding from the state library through the Lunch at the Library grant, we provided 12 pop-up programming events at 9 summer mill sites serving youth, distributing 905 books and 542 craft kits to 905 participants. Our bookmobile staff also brought summer reading to all the bookmobile sites and arranged for a special bilingual magic show at Nueva Vista Community Resources.
We also had 14 teens who participated in the summer reading program in juvenile hall. 20 books were distributed as prizes. Reading hours are not tabulated in juvenile hall. We treat them to free books with no strings attached. We provided 2 evening poetry programs presented by Nancy Gomez Miller from the Santa Cruz Poetry Project, and a total of 7 teens attended the poetry programs.
From June 1st to July 31st, 11,526 people attended 625 library programs, including regular ongoing programs, performer events, and outreach events. We offered magic, puppetry, bubble, and circus acts, as well as a theater act and poetry program. We also had special craft workshops for kids, families, and adults. Some of our most popular programs for youth included Circus of Smiles, Tom Naughty, Bubble Magic, the Puppet Company, the Puppet Company presents the 3 Dinosaurs Gruff, Fratello Marionettes, Mike Filipena's Summer Reading Magic Show, and Python Reptile Kingdom. We
also offered special craft programs such as seed balls and chivalry die workshop, and STEAM programs including the Lego Building Challenge, Lego Not So Simple Machines, make and explore crafts such as glow in the dark bouncy balls, which was a big hit. In the Lego Challenge program, we talk about what the engineering project will be, and the kids have the opportunity to work together or on their own to come up with a solution. Either way, they consult each other about the various ways they can build their projects. On the top was a ramp. That was the challenge, was to build a ramp. And they always have the opportunity to do what they want, just free play. That's, my favorite thing sometimes. And then in this Lego challenge, the goal was to create a wild animal and have people guess what it was. We also did a perler bead craft. This allows kids to use their creativity to make colorful patterns or pictures with these little tiny beads if you've never seen them. And it's a great way for kids to improve their small motor skills. as they place the beads onto the frame. This is a basketball and that was a wave, and it doesn't, the picture does not do it justice. It was beautiful. And then we also this year added a new advisory council of teens at the downtown branch, which is a first step towards learning what programs teens would like to see at that branch and actually in the region. ACT teens throughout the county helped with summer reading signups at the branches. They volunteered at outreach events like this one, which was the Japanese Cultural Fair. And they helped with friends book sales. We also had 2 teen interns who worked downtown with me at the branch. And they were a big help with lunch at the library and with all of our programs this summer.
And we also expanded our support for development of reading skills by offering the Recover and Thrive program at the Live Oak branch and virtually through an online reading program. We expanded read programming to provide support for developing reading skills and offered the program at 6 branches during June and July. And Eric will talk more about Recover and Thrive.
You can consider references like that. Well,
Well done. And a really well curated list too, by the way. It was stellar quality in that list.
Yeah, all across the board.
and Eric Howard. The Recover and Thrive presentation.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Howard. I'm the Assistant Director of the Center for Public Libraries. I was actually just looking over some of Janice's notes. Janice and Bruce got this going through the magic of their fundraising. And I looked back at her notes and she was trying to explain to the funders, this is not summer reading. So this was its own separate program to address a very specific need that I know all of you are keenly aware of. These were some of the headlines that we were reading last year, and unfortunately they haven't changed much, and we're learning more and more about the impacts from this pandemic. And I was going through some things though that I think help provide some history on this as well, and we're going to go into some more detail about this, but the Friends, through their magic of fundraising, were able to work with the entire community of the county of Santa Cruz and raise $50,000 to really target this issue. And for us as a library to really learn more about what we can do going forward. So this I find very interesting because this is, some of you may be familiar with this. It's a report that came out in 2010. We had for a long time struggled as a nation to get kids to read on grade level. And this report really put in focus why that's so critical, especially by 3rd grade. 3rd grade, the kids are learning to read up until 3rd grade, and then after that, they're reading to learn. So what happens is if they're not reading on grade level by 3rd grade, then by 4th grade, they're reading about science, they're not being taught science necessarily by a teacher, they're reading a lot from the textbook, they're unable to do it. And then that has huge impacts down the road. And in fact, part of the report talked about how 3rd grade is a real measure and a predictor of what's going to happen in many of their life outcomes, from graduating from high school to what they will earn, and to a whole number of significant outcomes. This, I wanted to just give you a quick snapshot of specifically, you've been seeing these national headlines. So I pulled up the awesome database that the county Office of Education has, so that we can kind of see what's happening in these grades. And you can see that steep decline during the pandemic on all the grades. So this is specifically for language arts, literacy, and where they are on grade level. So we have a lot of work to do. And it's not just, of course, the library, it's the whole country that really needs to figure out how we're going to move forward on this. This is the incredible campaign that the Friends of the Library did to raise money for this program. so now we're going to talk a little bit, and then Yolanda and I met with Santa Cruz County Office of Education, and we said to them, hey, we want to show you where we have some really good relationships and partnerships with schools, and if you can help point us in a direction, so we start a pilot program in a place that really has a lot of need, we would like to start there and see what we can learn. We chose Live Oak in large part because Heather and her team have already worked really well in developing an engagement program with the Live Oak School District. And then we also saw in the data that that was a place that would benefit a lot if we can focus our energy there. So the story of the Friends Recover and Thrive is really right now a 3-chapter story. And I'm going to try to make this as brief as possible for everyone. And there's actually going to be a 4th chapter that'll happen next summer. But this is these are the 3 chapters, and this is one way to look at it. So we restructured our entire, this was happening, we were thinking about this before we started this, and this really helped crystallize a lot of our thoughts around how we're trying to address this issue. We had, prior to this summer, a program where we pay credentialed teachers to work in many of our libraries and provide tutoring services. One thing that we learned after doing this, looking at how many kids are actually showing up to this, is that the schools do provide a fair amount of tutoring in the upper grades. We also, as a library, offer a program called Brain Fuse, which is a really phenomenal service. You can go online, you can interact live with a tutor on any subject and get that engagement anytime. And it is a really phenomenal service. And so we were wondering if we weren't duplicating our efforts there and not really meeting a need. Where we saw the numbers in terms of participation that were really strong, it was the lower grades. But we weren't reading, so we had 2 programs. We had one that was tutoring, and then another program called Read. But the Read was focused on comprehension. And so what the data is showing us, where the need from the community was really showing us we needed to address, was the struggling readers, the new readers from 1st grade and on. And so we refocused that program. We now have those hours dedicated that were once dedicated for tutoring, dedicated to this focus on Read, which is focusing on the younger grades, with one exception. We're keeping it going in Capitola because our numbers demonstrated that we needed to have some tutors there. And so some of those are homeschoolers who are going and they don't get the same services because they're homeschooled. So we saw that need, we're keeping that program going there. But through the other branches that we have in the program, we're focusing it entirely on reading comprehension and reading for struggling readers. So the first part of this was just restructuring that and seeing how that would look. Another piece that we spent the money, part of the money from what the Friends raised for us is training on those Read teachers. So we had a very experienced, really charismatic teacher come and we had a number of basically Zoom classes for the Read instructors that we had and provided them with some training. It was primarily on, and I'm going to get to this too in a little bit, but on DIBELS, which some of you may be familiar with, is a way to kind of test to see if those kids are reading on grade level or not. And also it helps to kind of give you an idea of how you should be addressing them. So this way, when the kids come in for the tutoring, now they have some tools for really kind of quickly figuring out, it's like a 5-minute test, where they're at, what they're struggling with, and now how to proceed with that. So we spent some of the money on that. And then another piece of it was this pilot program that we started. It's an in-person program run by the same teacher that we hired to help us with the training. And so I'm going to go over that in just a minute. And then we also used some of the money on special library programming that we did, where we hired some vendors who came in and did some extra programming for them as well. That was chapter 1. Chapter 2, I'm going to get to in just a minute. We met with some of our members from the equity team, and they said to us, not everyone can get to the library. You know, it's not possible to do that. So what are you going to do to address that? So we looked at a number of services out there. This one is used widely by schools, and it provides online classes that are live. And I'm still learning more and more about this program, which really is quite phenomenal. And then chapter 3 is what we're doing right now. And that's where we're working with 3 librarians, one here at Boulder Creek, one at Branson and one at Live Oak, who are going to work with the schools to help incorporate the chapter 2 piece of this. So I'm going to get to those in a minute. So the program has directly affected 60 students. There actually is a little bit more than 60 students, but that's not including all the students that will be affected, hopefully through the training that we provided the reading teachers. So that will continue to impact them as well. And then it also, we also impacted other students in the library program that we brought forward. So the pilot program was 3 days a week, 2 hours each day. And it had 4 components mainly to it. We have up there says computers, but really what it was is we purchased a separate software package that focused on phonics. And then they started the day with that, and it basically finds where they are, what age they are, the software does that for you, and then they sit there in the room with their headphones on for about 30 minutes. And then it says games, but the games were all phonics games. So, but they loved it, and it was really enjoyable. And then they read with one of the instructors. And then we also incorporated library programming into it. So we had like STEAM programs, and that way it was available to the students, but it was also available to anybody in the community as well. So there were some challenges to getting this pilot program off the ground, around timing. We were only able to get 8 students enlisted, and only 6 students in this program in Live Oak went from the beginning to the end. But of the 6 that remained, and we did a Dibbles test at the beginning, Dibbles test at the end, they all progressed. 5 of those 6 students initially tested in the lowest bracket. And that bracket is at risk or needing intensive support to make it to the next grade level. The 6 students who didn't score in the lowest band scored only 1 band above the others. So we had a reading specialist with over 20 years of experience to assess our results for us. And this way she was able to look at it kind of independently. And this is what she did when she reviewed the scores across the board. These were students who really needed this work. And you can see in all the literature what really benefits, you have to have really benefits students is excellent curriculum, but that one-on-one support and also support that's happening over the summer so that we're reducing that summer slide. And then just with this was actually just the other week, all of the students wanted to keep going with the program. They told us this, we surveyed them, of course, at the end, and they really wanted to continue with it. And then a parent came in just recently and said, you know, this quote here, my child reads with such ease and accuracy, and he's reading with such feeling. Can you continue with your program? And so what we did with all of those 6 students was we enrolled them in the Institute of Reading Development. So they stopped with that pilot program, and then we put them into the Institute of Reading Development as well. We offered this to the entire county. We advertised this, and we also had them come in order to participate in it, though. They had to come to the library and they had to meet with one of the reading instructors for one of our librarians. So it wasn't just that we were handing this out. In this way too, you know, we prevented somebody from New Jersey kind of pulling this offline and taking it from us. Because these seats, you know, it costs money, obviously, it's a private group. And so we're giving them away as scholarships essentially, but they had to come in, meet with the reading instructor, understand that they can come in at any point and get this free tutoring as well. So it's a nice compliment. And then we were also able to do a survey, because one of the things that we really wanted to understand is if we invest these types of resources in people to affect this particular change, will you become a regular library user? Will you become more engaged with our library? And we can see from the surveys that the groups that we targeted hardly have or have not been to the library even once in the past year. When we put it on we advertised it, of course, we were reaching people who are already engaged with the library. So it wasn't a surprise from the surveys that group were already using the library on a regular basis. So we also worked with Bookmobile and were able to recruit families from Bookmobile to do this as well. And also I should mention that the chapter 2 piece of it Actually, I'll come back to that in a second. So we have now 3 librarians who are working with the schools to do something similar that we did over the summer, but really kind of target and find out from them. How can we reach the kids who really need this and bring them on board? But what we want to make sure that we do when we do that is that they have that connection to the library. So we're leaving it up to those librarians to kind of figure out what's the right mix. Some are doing a pizza party for those who complete the program to come back and party at the library. Some are doing an ice cream party. Some are doing some other things related, similar to that. And we're still working on some other ideas on how we can kind of make that connection. So we're not just giving them the seat, but they see this connection to the library as well. So these are some of the next steps that we're going to be looking at. We have students right now who are still finishing up the Institute of Reading Development. We'll be offering more of those seats as well. So something that really came out of the equity team has now become pretty central to what this whole program is, which was this question originally, like if the kids, you know, 3rd grader or 1st grader can't make it to the library, how do you reach them? So now we're really expanding that as well. So we're going to continue to work with the schools, kind of figure out what model or models work best for them. We're going to build on this pilot program. One thing that we're exploring right now, actually, one of our team librarians explored this with her team group yesterday, actually was to survey them to see how we might really get team volunteers to help with that same sort of pilot program, kind of expand that out to other branches as well. And then we're going to really engage more with the campaign for grade level reading came out of that 2010 study. So all the major foundations, many of the major foundations funded this campaign. It's still going on. We're going to try to plug in with them more and build and strengthen those partnerships that are already involved in this campaign. Yeah.
So 6 kids completed the pilot program, which probably isn't bad for the first time you've ever tried it. How many in phase 2? Is it just those 6 kids, or have you recruited others?
Yeah, no, so we have, there's over 30 right now who are doing the online program, some have finished, most have finished, we're still waiting for some to finish up. And then we have another 30 seats that we're gonna give to those 3 librarians. There's actually more than that, because when what we've done in addition to that, so it's 60 altogether. And then we'll be able to go a little bit more because we still have some money left, so we can still go beyond that. And in addition to that, we reserve some seats because some wanted to continue with it. So you can keep doing that online program. It's a 6-week program, and you keep re-upping it and going to the next level. And so that's what we'll do with the parent came back last week and said they want to continue with this. And a couple of them have already taken advantage of that. So they've re-upped it and gotten to the next.
That's great. Yeah, that's good to know. So will you need more resources to continue this? I mean, it was kind of a heavily resourced program.
Yes. Yeah. I would love to do that. We did ask for another 10,000 from the Friends for next summer, which I hope we can apply to it. And then I'm also trying to think of other ways we can, you know, we don't want to pull the librarians off of what they're already doing with summer reading to help, because whenever people who don't work volunteers, you know, hear like, oh, we can just get volunteers, it always takes somebody to supervise volunteers. So even if we were to use teen library or teen volunteers to help pair up one-on-one with kids who are struggling, you still need someone to oversee the teams. And so we're trying to figure out how we can manage our capacity and continue to be innovative around those type of things. But yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eric, with the downturn in student performance because of the pandemic, is there any particular age group that was significantly hit more than others?
That's a really good question. I mean, the lower grades were dramatically impacted because they were really just starting off to learn. And so that's what I've seen, but I don't have the data on me to point to like which grades in particular. And it's also has varied quite a bit across the country. If you pull up McKinsey and Company, which is a private consulting firm. They do a lot of really, I think, good reporting on this. And you can see state by state how much it varies. And then they probably have in there the grades too in one of their reports.
That had more to do with how each state pivoted during the
Yes,
pandemic.
I think so. So I think we're still learning a lot about that, but they do go into that a little bit in the reports, that they break it down state by state, like how many weeks and months of lost learning each state has experienced. And
Books will be written. About this last couple of years. Excellent. Did I see a question in your eye, or was it just?
Yeah, no, I got the questions in my eyes. How will the school district, if they have students they want to funnel into this program, accomplish that goal? Not that I don't have 450 students that I need to get assistance.
well, I would say contact me directly.
Okay.
Because we have those three that we're beginning to work with, those three, which is the neighborhoods of Branson 40 and Live Oak. And then here in Boulder Creek, but contact me directly. Yeah, be great.
I'm looking to you if we have any hands raised out there
They're
in
not.
between the Bruce.
Yeah, I do one thing, the funding the Friends provided, a large chunk of it came from the Santa Cruz Youth campaign last year. But I would like to put on the record that we got a very generous grant from our friends at Kaiser Community Foundation, who have been longtime friends of the Friends, if you will, friends of the library, and they were a substantial part of the source of funds for this, and we're very grateful.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the resolution expanding Phillips, and I'll leave to either our director or Rena if you want to present this. If that's okay.
Yes, so I don't know if we had a chance to look at this, but there is, it's a banning book week, so it's very appropriate for us to be talking about it today. The library and the Joint Powers Authority have already adopted freedom to view, freedom to read, and a library bill of rights. So we have some things already on the books, as far as wanting to be sure that books aren't banned at the library. However, I don't know if you've been reading the same reports that I have, and it's been really alarming that politically, libraries have been losing funding. So it occurred to me and to Mike that this is a political issue, and I would just like something stronger than us just saying, yes, we're not going to ban books as a library. I think it's important, especially us as commissioners, to see if we can be going out more into the community and into maybe our elected officials and just have a record of them saying that they will not take away funding based on the banning of whether or not we ban books, because that has happened in other communities across the country. So that's kind of the impetus of this, and it's on page 78. If you would like to read this, it basically just says that things have been that we appreciate our library staff who are on the front lines of freedom to read and how important it is to have the freedom to read. And we are all committed to open access and information, as well as allowing free inquiry throughout the Santa Cruz Public Library system. And we oppose banning books and materials. And so this resolution is recommending that the governing bodies in the county, the Joint Powers Authority, Santa Cruz City Council, Scotts Valley City Council, Capitola City Council, and the Santa Cruz County Supervisors each adopt this resolution. So.
And, it's our recommendation that we not only vote on this and approve it as a body, but also each of us take it particularly to whoever appointed us, because they are all electeds and they can bring it forward to their governing bodies. And this will also be presented at the JPA meeting. So the city managers will have the heads up on this and hopefully give it their support. Discussion? Yes, Tricia?
Well, I want to thank you guys very much for doing this. This was a lot of work and it's the right policy in my mind. And I really want to thank you. Mike and Rena, you have stepped up a couple of times to really kind of take the laboring more on important issues. And this is one, and I support it wholeheartedly. So I do want to allow for discussion, but I'm ready to make a motion to approve.
More
the
discussion?
resolution.
Please, we need to pass this.
Okay, Yolanda, do you have a comment?
No.
Oh, Bruce?
Yeah, I would just like to say again, how important we think this is. I received an email today, with the results of a survey. That very happily reported that 67% of the people in the country were opposed to banning books, and I thought, at least a third of the people in the country are not opposed to banning books. That is just positively terrifying. So I totally support the motion. I'm glad you guys give it.
Well, Bruce, 12% of the population thinks that chocolate milk comes from brown cow. So contemplate that on your way home. Yeah. And do your. Yes, please bring it up. Thank you.
I believe this is Judy. Judy, you have permission to talk.
Good evening again. The Library Advisory Commission is intended to be a voice of the community to provide advice and feedback to the governing board and the director of libraries. The Commission will review programs and services and make necessary recommendations as they pertain to the provision of these programs and services. The LAC's role is not to provide advice to the Board of Supervisors or other city councils. No other advisory body issues proclamations or resolutions such as this. I understand the alarm, given all the news about book banning in other communities, but as Vice Chair Rena has pointed out, the library does have 3 policies affirming the right to read, right to view, and Library Bill of Rights, all strong statements against banning materials. So if you were going to present this to the JPA, that seems within the LAC's role. This could come in the form of a simple memo, not in this grandiose format. But to ask the cities of Santa Cruz, Scotts Valley, and Capitola to affirm this officially makes little sense. I didn't think library funding comes from those councils. It will just cost those cities money for staff time, time spent to agendize this for approval at council meetings, etc. Also, why single out particular book titles that have been the target of bans? I have emailed you a few minor tweaks, which are meant to be helpful. So thank you.
Thank you, Judy. So, any other comments? Very good. And I hear a motion.
I move that we adopt this resolution.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is the LAC meeting schedule.
Yes, we have included in your packet the proposed meeting schedule for 2024. And we've got our meetings there set out as quarterly, as well as the additional one for budget review. I'm happy to take any comments or questions that you have, but we are proposing that you review and approve the 2024 LAC.
Rena?
I did see that there was I think Judy had, maybe it was here or somewhere about the agenda. Oh, maybe she talked about it earlier, about the agenda being, put out earlier. And, I don't know if there's anything we can do to put out a rough agenda or something.
We do, and we have been doing it earlier. It's just that we were hoping that we would get another policy in, so we were holding till the last minute. Unfortunately, that policy didn't come through. We needed HR to approve it from the city. they were not able to complete the review in a timely manner, and they were telling us, yeah, we think, like, give me another day. We just couldn't do it at this point, but our goal is always to get it posted at least in advance, so. And we had not been doing that, and we were doing it, and this one, again, we got caught in the timing, but certainly we found out we had time.
Any discussion on our schedule? I know that we're gonna lose a commissioner.
It's true. It's true. I'll be part of the January 8th meeting, but then my 4-year term will end in February, and you don't wait again until it's been wonderful, and it's not over. I did have one question. Do we at one time have 6 meetings a year?
We did, we've had more, we kind of shifted it to in coordination with the board, so you all get everything before the board gets it to approve. And certainly the schedule would go back to that additional schedule. It's just that we do quarterly reports as period, so that you all get the quarterly reports, which is a more robust agenda to read through.
Thanks.
Sure.
And I do appreciate that we move around the libraries.
Yes,
Although I do wish that.
it's great.
Make that motion about the January. At this point, we have the board meeting for the beginning of November. I don't think we're gonna make us for that, so I think we're gonna have to shift that as well, so.
And we're hoping by October 7th, 2020. God's my witness. Is there a motion to approve this 2024 calendar? Please, come forward.
Judy, you have been given permission to speak.
Hi again. Seeing that your next meeting isn't until January, I hope at that time you will review the long overdue Code of Conduct policy, which includes rules about consuming food in the libraries. It would be a shame if our brand new facilities were damaged or soiled by lax food policies. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy.
That is one of the other policies we were hoping to get into this agenda.
Excellent.
And our policy review committee, we ended up sending it back to them, just to get more concise language.
So we'll see that in January.
You will
Okay,
see it.
perfect. Thank you. Motion approved.
I will approve.
Approval.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. And that's when we'll be and where we'll be.
Mary, you get to be here for the food discussion.
Great. Yeah, that's true. It's controversial. I just have my history of UCS where it was a lot. Yeah.
No, I've watched several library systems go through that. And yeah, and coffee shops get added to libraries and all of a sudden it's a diner. So commissioners, any last minute items? Will we go to the order? Nothing. Then we will adjourn this meeting of the Library Advisory Commission and we'll see you all in January.
Thanks for you. Great meeting.
Very good.
The two.
I'm not, yeah, but I had my PJ, literature and advanced